Crash. Silence. 3 bikers shove a woman. No one defends her. They think she's just a frail old waitress. But 30 minutes later, 3 US Marines walk in, without saying a word, and the entire room stands. This wasn't just bullying. This was a brutal snapshot of veteran stories you've never heard. A story about honor, silence, and justice delivered on time. Justice for veterans isn't a slogan. It's a promise. We will tell the stories society chose to forget. And if you think you know what a veteran looks like, watch until the end. You'll never see them the same way again. Evelyn Carter arrived at the diner at 5 a.m. She pushed her wheelchair through the creaky wooden door, starting her day like always. Wiping tables, aligning plates, laying down silverware, just like military drills. Her silver hair was neatly tied back. Her wrinkled hands moved with precision. No one noticed. No one asked her name. A young boy pointed. "Mom, why is that lady in a wheelchair?" The mother tugged his arm and whispered, "Don't stare." Evelyn didn't hear it, but if she had, she probably would have just smiled. On her faded apron, barely visible, was a tiny metal pin, the emblem of the United States Marine Corps, worn by time. They saw her as an old, tired waitress, but they didn't know she once commanded a platoon under fire in Fallujah. The door slammed open. 3 men walked in leather jackets, scruffy beards, boots pounding the tile with intention. Travis Boone led the way tall, face red from cold and alcohol. Rick Bulldog Dawson spat gum onto the floor. Joey Lex grinned and pointed at Evelyn. "Well, look at this. Wheelchair service now?" Evelyn silently turned her chair toward the counter. She didn't reply. Travis glanced around, elbowed a staffer. "Where's the beer? Smile a little." Rick dropped into a seat, feet up on the table. "Why does this place feel like a damn nursing home?" The diner fell quiet. No one moved, but the air shifted. Evelyn kept wiping the counter. Her gaze never touched them, but something deep had just stirred in that room. Rick, Bulldog, stood up, wobbling dramatically. He mimicked an explosion. Boom! A landmine. Now I'm crippled too. The 3 burst into laughter. Joey stepped closer to Evelyn. "Hey lady, what kind of war did you fight where you lost your legs?" Evelyn didn't turn. She quietly placed a cup of coffee on the table. Her hand trembled slightly, but stayed steady. Travis grabbed a napkin and tossed it at her feet. "Pick that up, will ya, war hero?" A second later, light from the door cast her shadow wheelchair, bound, alone, in a crowded room. No one laughed, but no one spoke up. An older man at the back of the room clenched his fist. The child beside him whispered, "Dad, that's wrong, right?" He didn't answer. He just looked at Evelyn and at the faded American flag hanging behind her on the wall. Travis stood. He walked straight to Evelyn. No warning, no hesitation. One sharp shover tray crashed to the floor. Cups shattered, silverware spun, and Evelyn toppled out of her wheelchair. The impact hit harder than any punch. Her wheel slowly turned, then fell over. She lay there, hands on the cold tile, coffee soaking her apron. Something slipped from her pocket. A small silver badge Marine Corps emblem spun on the ground and stopped at Frank Delaney's feet. Evelyn didn't scream. She didn't cry. She looked up. Her pale gray eyes met Travis not with anger, but deep exhaustion. Then she picked up the badge, clutched it in her palm, and whispered not for anyone to hear, but to herself, "Fallujah." The room was packed, but in that moment, Evelyn was utterly alone. Evelyn slowly pushed herself upright. Her hand reached for the tipped wheelchair, trying to right it. Her palm wet with coffee, chilled, but no one helped. A young waiter nearby looked, then turned away. An elderly couple by the door shook their heads, but kept eating. A young man pulled out his phone not to call, but to record. Evelyn rolled back toward the counter, lopsided, exhausted, without a word of complaint, as if she'd been through this too many times before. At the back of the room, Frank Delaney placed a hand on his son's shoulder. Tommy looked up at him, voice shaking. "Dad, I don't get it. Why isn't anyone doing anything?" Frank didn't answer. He pulled out an old phone from his jacket. The screen was cracked, but the signal was strong. He punched in a series of numbers, then held the phone to his mouth. Code Gray, Staff Sergeant Carter, civilian location, honor compromised. Evelyn Carter reached out and pulled her wheelchair back upright. Her right knee was bleeding, scraped raw against the floor. But she didn't cry out, didn't ask for help. Leaning on the table, she turned herself and lifted her body back into the seat. Every motion was slow, shaky, but exact. Like training, like discipline, like a soldier's memory that never fades. An older customer gasped. She actually got back up. Someone beside him whispered, but why did she have to do it alone? Evelyn sat up straight, wiped her hands on her wet apron. She bent down to gather the scattered dishes, a chipped plate, a broken cup. Still, she stacked them neatly like nothing had happened. Some people survive war, but every day in peace, they still fight to protect one thing: dignity. The diner clock read 11:42. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Evelyn kept working, wiping tables, collecting shards, as if her body had gone numb to pain, as if her soul forgot what it meant to be humiliated. The three bikers kept laughing. Travis sneered. Hey Joey, maybe the lady here was a special forces commander. Bet she wielded heavy-duty spoons. Joey made tank noises. Grah. Marine in a wheelchair. Incoming. Ha ha ha. Rick slapped the table, nearly choking on laughter. But not everyone was laughing. Tommy hunched over, sketching something on a napkin. A figure in a wheelchair, wearing body armor. Frank, his father, checked the time. His hand tightened and began to tap. 11:48. A customer by the door glanced outside. The sky darkened. A distant engine growled. Something was coming. But inside that room, there was still only pretending indifference, and a woman who once fought for people that would never thank her. A black SUV pulled up outside the diner. The windows didn't reflect light because there was none. Only gray skies, cold wind, and a sense that something was about to flip. The door opened. A pair of black boots stepped out calm, deliberate. Then a second pair. Then a third. 3 men, not in uniform, but unmistakably military. Master Sergeant Leon Briggs in front, back straight. Eyes deep, hands at rest but ready. Marcus Fields followed, tall, steady, like a wall. Jeremy Wooth, youngest, face sharp, stepped solid. The 3 Marines stepped inside. They said nothing. No shouts, no orders. But the atmosphere shifted instantly. Customers turned. Staff stood straighter. Evelyn at that moment just barely looked up, then froze. And from that silence, honor returned. Master Sergeant Leon Briggs walked to the center of the room. His eyes locked on Evelyn, still in her wrinkled apron, holding a chipped plate. He stood at attention, raised his right hand to his brow. Voice rang out clear, slow, like a roll call at a memorial. Staff Sergeant Evelyn Carter. Evelyn didn't move. The packed diner went completely still. A staffer behind the counter lowered a glass, hand to chest. A customer murmured, "She's real military." Evelyn lifted her head. Her eyes met Leon's. Then she saluted back slowly, not strong, but with full reverence. Master Sergeant Briggs, a frail old woman in a wheelchair, was seen as a commander who led soldiers through hell. No introduction needed. The rank spoke loud enough. And to those 3, Marinesha was still their superior. Travis Boone began to rise. But before he could speak, Marcus Fields stepped forward, not fast, not threatening, just in time. He looked Travis straight in the eye, voice calm, low, firm. "Sit." Travis froze halfway, his fists still clenched. But his eyes dropped, for reasons even he didn't understand. Rick Bulldog swallowed hard. He took a step back, bumping into the table. Joey Lex wasn't smiling anymore. His hand trembled as he reached for his phone, but didn't dare lift it. Evelyn said nothing. Neither did Briggs. They didn't have to, because what filled that room now was authority. Not the kind born from muscle but from the past they had survived. And the title, they still honored. Staff Sergeant Carter. None of the 3 Marines lifted a finger, but the biker table seemed to shrink, and everyone who had once stayed silent now sat upright, solemn-eyed. Something in the air had shifted entirely, as if the old order had been overturned, and justice had just walked in, wearing military boots. Jeremy Wooth, youngest Marine, walked toward the door. He opened the SUV trunk and wheeled in a brand new chair. Black steel frame, shining wheels, a neatly folded cloth on the seat. He stopped in front of Evelyn, gently lifted the cloth. Underneath was an old photo. A unit of soldiers in the desert sun, blazing. Dust thickened in the center was her. Evelyn Carter, dark sunglasses, torn body armor. Below the photo, faded black ink read, "She carried us every damn time." Evelyn stared at it. Her aged eyes welled. She placed her hand on the writing, said nothing, only nodded. The first diner guest stood, then a second, then the whole room. No one gave a signal. No one asked them to, but all of them stood. Evelyn didn't look around. She remained seated, yet for the first time she sat taller than anyone. Because now, the entire room knew. She wasn't just in a wheelchair. She had once led her unit through hell. Frank Delaney stepped forward. He approached Evelyn, removed his cap, bowed deeply. "Sorry, I was late." Evelyn looked at him. Her eyes softened. Her voice, hoarse but with a hint of dry humor. "You weren't late. I just forgot who I used to be." Tommy Frank's young son tugged his father's sleeve, then stepped forward, shyly asking, "Ma'am, do you think I could be like you someday?" The room paused. Briggs stepped beside him, placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. "If you learn to stand to 11 without legs, then, yes, you can." Evelyn turned to Tommy, a faint smile on her lips. Not a smile of pride, not of triumph, but of someone who had lost everything and still chose to live with grace. In that moment, no one saw her as the waitress in a wheelchair. She was the quiet hero, one who didn't survive to seek glory but to remind the world dignity doesn't need to be given, it just needs to be remembered. Travis Boone stood first. He said nothing, looked at no one, just nodded. Not to apologize, but as if to admit he was wrong. Rick Bulldog followed eyes down, hands in pockets, heavy boots tapping with unease. Joey Lex trailed behind, one hand gripping his phone, the other wiping sweat. All 3 left the diner. No one forced them. They simply withdrew, knowing they no longer belonged there. Inside, there were no cheers, no applause, but something had been returned. Not vengeance, not punishment, but truth. Evelyn remained seated, silent. She didn't smile, didn't speak, but her eyes warmer, steadier, watched the door as it closed. On the new wheelchair, the old photo still rested. Its words short, but enough to tell the whole story. She carried us every damn time. And this time, they came back only to carry her to where she belonged. Back to honor. Not everyone in a wheelchair is weak. Not everyone who's silent has nothing to say. And not every hero wears armor. Some just wear aprons and endure quietly. Evelyn Carter didn't need rescuing. She only needed one thing: to be seen with fairness, like anyone who's ever stood a post in battle. You may have never held a rifle, but you can still stand on the right side. Veterans like Evelyn, they don't demand praise, but they deserve not to be forgotten. If you've ever witnessed someone like Evelyn, someone holding on to dignity in a world losing compassion, leave this behind. I stand with veterans. This isn't just a moving story. It's a reminder that respect shouldn't come after we learn someone's a hero. It should start with how we look at every human being, every day. Justice for veterans. They don't need to be glorified, just never left behind.